Okay. Yeah, hello again. Today's video is going to be about me making kombucha. It happened over a course of a week maybe, because there's different fermentation steps where you have to let the kombucha sit and ferment. So yeah, this was taken over multiple days, and I did not film myself actually in the video making it. I just filmed the actual kombucha, like the bottles. I'm not really in the video. It was sort of a wild journey, guys. Today I opened the bottle and there might have been an explosion, and I'll talk more about that later. Okay, I'm gonna read off these instructions so I can overlay this audio. Okay, so the first step to making kombucha is called first fermentation. First fermentation typically takes around 7 to 12 days. Let's see, during this time, the sweet tea ferments and is transformed into kombucha by the starter tea and a kombucha culture, a scoby. At the end of fermentation 1, you'll have unflavored, largely uncarbonated kombucha. And then the second fermentation, this is when your kombucha tea is flavored, usually with fruit, and bottled in a sealed container for about 2 to 4 days at room temperature to create carbonation. Yes, well, let me say there was a lot of carbonation created during my second fermentation. Okay, so ingredients. Okay, so 4 cups of water to boil, 2 to 3 tablespoons of loose leaf black tea. In the instructions here, it said that they like English breakfast, so I also use English breakfast. It's black tea. And then 3/4 cup of cane sugar, and I used organic sugar, also like the instructions suggested. And then 1 scoby. So my cousin Nathan has a friend who makes kombucha, and then their scoby replicated, so they gave me a scoby, so that's how I got mine. 2 cups of kombucha starter tea. And that is tea that hasn't gone through the first fermentation, that has successfully gone through 1 fermentation cycle. Okay, so now materials. So you need a steeping vessel, like a French, okay, I didn't have a steeping vessel, but I think I used a strainer. 1 gallon glass jar, a food thermometer, a cotton cloth cover, which could be a cheese filter, a clean shirt or bandana or fine weave, cheesecloth, and a rubber band. Okay, so the first step was to make the tea concentrate by boiling 4 cups of filtered water. Once boiling, turn off the heat and steep your loose leaf tea for 15 minutes. And I used a strainer to get all the tea leaves out of the kombucha. Step 2, add 3/4 of cane sugar to the hot liquid and stir to dissolve. Once 15 minutes have passed and your tea has been steeped, strain out the leaves and add the hot sweet tea to a 1 gallon glass jar. Add approximately 8 cups of cool or cold water to the jar to dilute the tea and bring the temperature down. The temperature of the liquid in the jar should be between 70 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit before you move on to the next step. The instructions also note that if it's too cold, you could put your scoby into a state of dormancy, and if it's dormant, it won't produce enough bacteria and yeast fast enough to acidify the brew. That could lead to mold. If it is too hot, then you could kill the scoby and end up with the same problem. A dead scoby can't do its job to acidify your brew. If it's not acidifying fast enough, it could get moldy. And then once the temperature is just right, add 2 cups of starter tea from a previously brewed batch of kombucha and the scoby. I just said step 5, that's adding the 2 cups of starter tea to the previously brewed batch of kombucha and scoby. Okay, step 6 is to cover the jar with a clean, tight weave cloth. A bandana, t-shirt, or even coffee filter would work, and secure it with a rubber band. I just used this cloth that came with the big gallon jar, and it also came with a rubber band. Then you let it sit at room temperature between 70 to 85 degrees in a shady spot with decent airflow for around a week. Starting at the 5-day mark, you can start tasting the kombucha to see if you like the taste of it, and if you want it less sweet, then you should let it sit longer so the bacteria will just keep eating at the sugar. So I think I waited 7 days, yeah, and they say right here I tend to ferment mine for 7 to 9 days before I bottle. Yeah, I waited about 7 to, I think it was either 8 days or 7 days. I just got busy, so that's why I didn't really do anything for 8 days. But then when I finally tasted it, it tasted pretty sweet, so, and I was too lazy to keep letting it ferment, so I was like, whatever, you know, it's done, I'm just gonna flavor it. Okay, so then fermentation 2. So that was fermentation 1. You let it sit for like a week or so. And then fermentation 2 is when it gets put in all the flavorings. So yeah, so to do the flavoring things, I just pureed the fruit in a blender. And then I just dumped in the fruit mixture into the bottles that I would be doing the second fermentation in. And then I pour the kombucha in. I actually did pour some of the kombucha in with the first batch of little fruit that I did because it was too thick, so it wouldn't go into the bottle. Yeah, so I can talk about the flavors I did. So one of the flavors I did was jackfruit, because I just happened to have jackfruit at my house, and I was like, well, you know, that'd be interesting. So I just blended up some jackfruit in this, the blender. I added a little water so it was more liquidy. And then I added, I think you're supposed to add, so you're supposed to use 1/4 to 1/3 cup per 16-ounce bottles. So I had 32-ounce bottles. So I just went for a 1/2 cup to 2/3. So yeah, the first flavor I did was jackfruit, and I just blended that up, and I put it in the jar with the kombucha. And then I did, and this is just fruit I had at my house, you know, I didn't really plan this out beforehand. For the next one, I had peaches, and we had some leftover papaya. So I was like, oh, you know, peach papaya, that sounds good. So I blended some peach and papaya up, and then I did that in one jar, and then for the last one I did ginger, because that's my favorite flavor. I really like the Costco kombucha. They have like lemon ginger, I think it's Costco brand, but it's really good. So I wanted to do a ginger one, and for that one, we just smashed up, as in my mom was helping me with that one, because I didn't know where the ginger is in my own house, oops. And then after that, you put the bottles in a shady spot. So I just put them back in the box they came in, and then I just stuck that like on the ground somewhere next to the wall, and then I just left it there. And then I think you're supposed to let it sit for 2 to 3 days, but I let it sit for 4 days because I was just busy. And then, so today was the 4th day, and I was eating dinner, and I was like, oh, you know, oh yeah, the kombucha's done, I'm excited, you know, I'm gonna go try it. So I go get the kombucha, and I noticed that, you know, the box is sort of wet, and I'm like, oh, it's leaking, that's not good, you know, maybe the fermentation was like really strong or something, and it leaked. So I take the bottles out, I bring them to the kitchen, I set them on the counter, and okay, this is story time now, this is about the explosion. Okay, these bottles are like the bottles that have the stopper thing on top, that there's like this wire thing, like you'll see in the video, probably, I can show a clip. And like before, when I've gotten kombucha and there's like an explosion, it's more like, oh, you know what, it comes out, but like if you're near a sink, you can like sort of like make it go in the sink. So I thought, you know what, if it starts like, if I can tell it starts fizzing, I'll just like run it over to the sink or something and just dump out the excess. So I push the latch open, and then like boom, like in my face, like I like step back, and it just explodes everywhere. And like my mom's also standing there, and we just watch a fountain of kombucha splattering like all over, hits this like onto the ceiling, onto the front, like the cabinets, furniture. And then my mom was like, oh, like wait, go cover it. And I was like too in shock. I just sprayed in the face. I was not expecting that. And then by the time I went back over to it, it was like too late. There was nothing to cover. It had stopped. And when I say explosion, I'm not saying like, oh, like it, you know, just, you know, spilled. Like 15 feet radius. I'm like from the kitchen to the other side of the kitchen. onto the ceiling, onto the carpet in my living room, over the nice seats, over stuff that was just on the table, like hit the screen of the computer, which was at least 15, 20 feet away, maybe like 20 feet away. Yeah, there's a splatter on the couch. It was on our white carpet, and I had opened the, let's see, papaya. It was the papaya peach one, so it was like orangey. Yeah, it was really bad. So the ground was just wet. So I think 4/5 of the bottle was not in the bottle anymore. It was, let's just say it was a really big L. So that happened today. And then the family pitched in, we all cleaned it up for like at least an hour to 2 hours. We had to bring out the ladders to like clean kombucha off the ceiling. I was like trying to use like spot removal stuff on the carpet. It didn't really work. And the smell smelled like, okay, kombucha doesn't smell good, but this was also sweet because I had put in the peach and papaya, and it made it a lot sweeter than what you normally buy at the store. So it was like the sweet kombucha, like as if someone threw up was like the smell. It was nasty. And then like I tasted it later. There was a little bit left, so I tasted it, and it didn't taste bad. But because the smell was not good, it like made me like gag a little bit. Like it tasted fine. That was the peach one, the peach papaya one. And okay, the other 2 bottles I forgot. So the rest of the bottles are just on the counter, and I'm like, oh crap, like I should definitely go outside and just explode them because I don't want them exploding in here. So I take them outside, and then the jackfruit one I couldn't get open. I was like smashing it on the ground. I was like, oh my god, I just gotta let it all out. So eventually like it sort of broke and started like coming out, but I hadn't fully opened it, and I like struggled for 5 minutes to open it as it's like already spilling out. And then finally it opened, and then I just dumped it out. And then the ginger one, prepared for the worst, lifted the latch. It didn't really actually spill out that much, so I guess that one didn't ferment as much. And maybe it's because there wasn't a ton of added sugar. I don't really know how that works. Science. But yeah, so the ginger one, we had almost like maybe 3/4 of the bottle after stuff had come out. So I brought that one inside. We cleaned the rest of the house. Then ate dinner standing because the chairs were wet from trying to clean them. And then I tried the ginger kombucha, and it was actually really good. So the ginger one turned out good. My dad and brother did not want to try it. My mom tried it. She said it was good. Okay, so why did it explode? Yeah. So apparently after second fermentation, the instructions said that you're supposed to put it in the fridge to cool it down, so it's not as to slow the fermentation or carbonation or something, so it doesn't explode. But I had been letting it sit at room temperature for 4 days, so I guess there was a lot of carbonation. And I totally missed the instructions that said put it in the fridge. And not thinking about it, I don't know how I would have. It's they were 32-ounce bottles, so they were really tall actually. But yeah, so I didn't cool it down, so it it had a lot of pressure. Yeah, so that's where I went wrong, I guess. I don't know how much smaller of an explosion it would have been, but it was just a very unexpected thing that happened. I've never, that might be the most eventful thing of the summer. That or my brother driving into our basketball hoop the other day. But that happened this week too. So, I exploded kombucha all over the house. My brother drove the car accidentally into the basketball pool. My parents said they feel like they aged many years from these 2 accidents, basically, which I feel really bad about. But this week was definitely the most eventful of the summer. Yeah, so I don't know if I forgot to say anything about the kombucha, but that's the kombucha story. I'm not supposed to be making kombucha in the house again, so I think everyone's scarred from this incident. I don't think I was gonna do another batch just because my scoby did replicate, so I was like, I can do another batch, but yeah, and after what happened today, and it's a ton of work because you have to wait around, I don't think I'm gonna be making it again. I'll probably give the scoby to someone else who wants to make it, but I think my whole family is scarred. Now, it was in my hair. I showered, and when I came out, I felt like I could still smell it, and I was like, ugh, it was a little bit sickening because I was like, I don't know. So anyway, I'm still gonna drink kombucha. I'll probably just continue to buy the Costco one, but I don't think the kombucha making life is for me. Yeah, so anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and my little kombucha story. If you want to go make kombucha yourself, just remember to, like, when you open your bottles after second fermentation, the first fermentation you don't put a lid on it. It's just like the cloth sits over the jar, so like air can come in and out, so nothing's gonna explode. But the second fermentation, my instructions say to put lids on it. If you do, you have to cool it after, or else you're gonna get an explosion. Or I guess just open it outside and then hope for the best. But yeah, so thank you for watching. Go make your own kombucha and send me pictures or something. Yeah. Okay. Peace. Bye.